Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and each week I'm joined by a panel of guests to discuss all things fandom and pop culture, primarily from a female perspective. You'll find everything from fanfic, to cosplay, to Schitt's Creek, to Supernatural, and everything in between. So put on your favorite piece of fandom merch, set aside that fanfic that you're writing about your OTP, and sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to It's a Fandom Thing. I'm your host, Erin Marlowe, and it is Topic Month. And during this month, we discuss topics in relation to pop culture, to media, to fandom. It just runs the gamut. And at the end of the episode, I will give you a rundown on what we're talking about because we are going to be doing an extra week this month. So I will explain what that is going to be, what that's covering. Next week, just as a heads up, it is your essential Oscar predictions episode. Erin A and I, the two Erins, we always are just so amazing with our predictions. So you definitely want to tune in for that one. But we are kicking off the month with a look at neurodiversity in media. And we're going to be talking about probably a lot of bad representations, frankly, but hopefully we can mix in some good ones and hopefully someday it'll start to get better. And this was suggested by Sara. So Sara is here as well. And I will introduce both of my panelists here. So first up from OK Real Quick, the podcast with the modcast. That doesn't podcast with the. I'm like trying to think of a word right with that. Nothing sounds good. So the OK Real Quick. I can't even think of something with quick. Sorry. So my introduction for you is lame. I'm sorry. So from OK Real Quick, Carla.
Hello, Erin. I'm glad to be here at a less quick pace than on OK Real Quick, which is 10-ish minutes for the most part.
Yeah. And this will be 20-ish minutes.
Yes. Exactly. It'll be great. Fast, but not too fast.
That's what she said. Also joining me is Sara, who once again, as I said, suggested this topic. So hello, Sara.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So I do want to give some trigger warnings. I do want to go over because it's interesting to me because I learned something prepping for this. And please feel free to jump in and correct me about certain things that were classified as neurodivergencies and things that I didn't even honestly know or realize, because one of them is something that I actually have and I didn't even, I don't know. So we're learning, like we said on our pop culture episode, we're learning new things every day. So, but trigger warning for ableism is the biggest trigger warning I can give. I don't know if it'll come up, but I do always want to give trigger warnings for homophobia and racism, because I think that also can come up a lot when we're talking about this. So throwing that out there too. But the neurodiversity paradigm is a framework for understanding human brain function that considers the diversity within sensory processing, motor abilities, social comfort, cognition, and focus as neurobiological differences. This diversity falls on a spectrum of neurocognitive differences. The neurodiversity movement views autism and other neurodivergencies as a natural part of human neurological diversity, not diseases or disorders. And these can include autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, bipolar disorder, which I didn't know that was considered in here. I have bipolar 2, for those that don't know that. Developmental speech disorders, dyslexia, obsessive compulsive disorder, schizophrenia, sensory processing disorder, and Tourette's syndrome. And there's a lot of others as well that aren't listed here, but I know there are others as well that are considered under this umbrella. So once again, triggers for ableism, because I know that is definitely going to come up, and for racism and homophobia. And yeah, so what I first want to know, Carla, is what is one of the first depictions of neurodiversity that you remember seeing in media?
You know, it's funny because I didn't know that neurodiversity was a thing up until fairly recently, like the last maybe 5 years. So it's more about like, what character did I relate to really hard that I later came to find out, oh, hey, apparently they're neurodiverse. And to me, that would be, and I'll get into later on why this is a bit problematic, but Data from Star Trek, because that's one that people have come to relate to as a neurodiverse character. And again, I'll get into later, like the whole, alien bot phenomenon in neurodiversity representation. But yeah, that one.
I just like the way you said, but yeah, that one. That one. And it is true. I didn't know about the word until like 5 years ago at all. So yeah, I know it's a fairly new, I think, for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah?
Yeah, the whole neurodiversity movement, I guess, is fairly new. And I know there's been a lot of conversations about it within the autism community. Besides being on the spectrum myself, my oldest son, who just turned 23, was diagnosed with autism when he was 4. But besides the point, the first one that I remember is Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. That's the first time, and going back, I think there are other characters that are, I guess, neurodiverse coded, but that is the first one that I remember seeing, and is what gave me my, not framework, but is how I saw that that's how people with autism are. And we'll get into that later about why that is that, not because the character was based on a real person named Kim Peek, who was also had savant syndrome in addition to being autistic. So it was based on an actual person. That would be the first representation that I remember.
Yeah, and when I was doing my research, that actually the person that role was based on did not have autism.
Oh, he didn't. Oh, I thought he did.
Yeah, that came out later when I was watching. So I was watching all these videos on YouTube, and I thought I wrote down. I know, because I was like, I've got to write that down. Oh, it's called F. I can't read my own handwriting.
I can relate to that.
I feel that.
Yeah, my handwriting is so bad. I'm like, Erin, you're not going to be able to read this later. And I'm.
Oh, I do. I actually do have it here.
Good.
It's a rare genetic condition known as FC syndrome.
Oh, see, I was going somewhere.
He had severe brain abnormalities, including an absent corpus callosum. Callosum? Callosum.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I did not know that.
I didn't either until I found that out when prepping for this. And I was watching a video about, in particular, the really horrible depictions. And Rain Man, of course, is mentioned all the time. And that was also mine as well, Sarah. And I remember very specifically as a little kid, like really feeling profoundly moved by that. And of course, that movie very much paints it like basically Tom Cruise's character learned something through Dustin Hoffman's character. And it's never about Dustin Hoffman's character, really. It's about Tom Cruise and what he learns. And, he uses his brother because they're brothers constantly. And yeah, so it's not a very good depiction, but I do remember that being the first one and thinking when I was a little kid, wow, this is amazing. And I know when that movie came out, it was very much like people were like, this is so great that we're getting this depiction of autism, and which turns out it wasn't even that the real person didn't even have autism, but we're getting this amazing, great, wonderful depiction of autism is how it was framed. And of course, you had Dustin Hoffman win an Oscar for his performance. So yeah, which is another one of those things that happens as well. Like, basically, someone who doesn't have autism playing someone that does have autism, and where you run into also that's also not that great because you want representation both behind the camera and in front of the camera. And yeah. So, Carla, I know this is kind of like a duh question, but I think it's important to dive deep into it because you can just say, well, of course they're bad. But why are bad portrayals like Rain Man, why are they so harmful?
Like any kind of representation that is not created by the people in the community that they're representing, which is usually the case when it comes to bad representation, and not portrayed by the people who are supposedly being represented, which is usually the case with bad representation of neurodivergences. The reason that bad representation is bad is that it sets up an expectation for the audience of what the people with the supposed condition or disability have. And because there is so little of it to begin with, any representation is taken to be like a blanket thing, which is, it's also a shortcoming of understanding, because the idea that one person being portrayed is representative of an entire community is a very flawed concept to begin with. You know, one Black person on a show does not represent every Black person on the planet, but that's often how it's interpreted, which is why you have people going to China, Black people I'm speaking of, going to China and being treated like they're, you know, quote unquote thugs, and that they're scary people. And you have, you know, these expectations that have been set up by Western media. When it comes to neurodivergence, it's also a bit more insidious because you don't always know what a person quote unquote has by looking at them. You cannot tell by looking at somebody that they're autistic. You cannot tell by looking at somebody that they have ADHD, OCD, BPD, D. You cannot tell by looking at people. That is not the way that neurodiversity works. So when you create a character that externalizes these things, you're really simplifying something. You're simplifying a very vast inner world into something very incomplete and also more often than not inaccurate. So it's not helpful to have a character, especially to create a character and say, oh, this person, this is my autistic character and it's being played by this person, and not have it written by a person within the community and then portrayed by a person within the community. And even then, even when it is somebody within the community writing them, it can't just be one person unless it's like an autobiographical thing, because it's a very complex and vast spectrum. In any of the neurodivergences, you can't just accurately represent it with one person. And you need to have a community of people telling you, okay, look, I get why for you this might be that, but this is going to create a harmful representation for the greater audience. I'm thinking specifically of the movie, and not just specifically because in general, but the movie Music by Sia was a horrible, incredibly harmful representation in every single category, because the way that she wrote the character of Music is an autistic girl with high support needs who she gurns a lot. And by that, the word gurning means make faces, like contort your face into different, using different muscles. She gurns a lot, and she has very specific stims and tics, and she's always wearing the big, noise canceling headphones, and has behavioral disturbances. And not only that, and you're creating this character as a very specific representation, she also cast an actress just because she liked the actress. The actress was not autistic. She's not on the spectrum. She's not on any support level. And the actress herself was like, "Are you sure you want to cast me? Like, am I really the right person?" And Sia was just like, "Yeah, you're it. You're the one that I want to cast in this movie." All right, great. But it was such a harmful representation of autism, on top of which the sister of the character, to help calm her down from her supposed fits, would bodily kind of tackle her and hold her down, which is so harmful and so hurtful. Not just like, oh, hey, this isn't cool, but also, hey, you're actually hurting this person and potentially causing them greater harm. all with the idea of like she's being a loving sister who's just trying to help her little autistic sister who can't apparently, learn to regulate on her own without being held down. And that's just talking about autism. Look at representations of OCD. When people think obsessive compulsive disorder, they think I have to wash my hands repeatedly. But it's always presented as I have to wash my hands repeatedly because they never feel clean enough, when that is not necessarily the case. It can also mean, it often means, I have this thought in my head that my family is going to die. And washing my hands frees me for a moment from that thought. If I wash my hands, my family won't die. Okay. And I'm walking away from the sink. I wash my hands. Oh no, you have to go do it again because the thought's coming back. So it's the obsession, the obsessive thought, and the compulsion to cure the thought with the activity. And it's not just washing hands. It's checking to make sure that you lock the door. It's also, tapping. It's also making sure that you're not looking in a specific spot. There are so many things that, TV, film is a very visual media. So understandably, like, it's hard to represent that on film, but it also presents a higher burden that is necessary on the filmmaker, on the showrunner, to present something accurately and in a more diverse way, because otherwise you're just showing somebody washing their hands and you're not showing the inner workings of why they feel that they have to do that. It's not as simple as it's being presented. And I could go on for every type of neurodivergence, but the fact of the matter, it remains that often when such an incomplete picture is painted, you are setting up the person with a neurodivergence on the screen to represent a very flat picture. But it's all of the people who are in the real world who are going to be affected, because now anybody that hears, oh yeah, I have ADHD, is going to expect you to be a flake and treat you accordingly. It's going to expect you to be only hyper and treat you accordingly. It's going to expect it to be a thing that you can grow out of, because so many times on TV, they will just be like, hey, I had ADHD as a kid. Do you have it now? No, I've grown out of it. And that was representation up until a few years ago. So the way that it affects the real life people is what's the problem. The way that writers and also actors lean on superficial stereotypes, typically physical superficial stereotypes, creates barriers for people in real life, because then they're treated as a problem as opposed to a full person who should and must be dealt with as a full person. And it's incredibly disturbing to see how many times somebody will encounter a neurodivergent person and just be like, oh, so you're like Sheldon Cooper. Oh, so you're like, Lenny in Of Mice and Men. And oh, you're like the kid in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And that's it. Like, that's their entire interaction with them. And they're like, okay, I've dealt with you sufficiently. I was nice to you by talking to you. Goodbye. Never speak to me again. And that is like the most, there's so much more beyond that. That's like, in a short amount of time, the most I can say in a brief way. But just please know that you have to look at every representation and question its source, its portrayal, and how much you actually know about that particular neurodivergence compared to real life. And most importantly, don't apply that to the real people in your life, because more often than not, those portrayals are going to be inaccurate and incomplete.
And Sara?
I mean, I've seen firsthand how inaccurate portrayals can affect people. So I'm going to speak from personal experience here, in specific to autism, because more often than not, you see autism portrayed as Sheldon Cooper or Raymond Babbitt. Those types of characters where not only, we know now that Kim Peek did not have autism, but and just speaking to the character, that not only do they have autism, they also have something called savant syndrome. So I can't tell you how many times after my son was diagnosed, I just random, in talking to random people or friends, even just friends. Well, what's his special talent? He must be really good at math. He must be really good at science. I mean, just all these stereotypes of people on the spectrum. And yeah, he's a smart kid, but he's not a human calculator. But I would see that a lot, and I would get that a lot because that was what their perception was. That's what they were being shown. And it is so much more than that because it is a spectrum. Neurodiversity in general is a spectrum. So one representation, I mean, there are some that it is getting better, but there's still, like with a lot of representation in general, it's getting better, but there's still a long, long way to go. So when people see that type of thing, and it's mostly boys, ADHD, and that they're just hyperactive and causing trouble, and that's not what it is. Is that an aspect of it? Yes, but that's not the whole picture. That's not the whole story. So when you get these type of portrayals, it's harming the entire community because, like Carla was saying, when they meet you, they're operating under what they have seen and what's been shown to them. And they're expecting you to fit this description. And that's not the case because it's so much more complex with any type of neurodiversity than what is being written and what is being shown. So I'm hoping that we get better representation in the future. And there are a couple good examples out there. And I know we're going to dive into that. So there are some like I said, it is getting better, but it's still got a lot of ways to go.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of ways to go when you have a movie that came out just in 2025 called The Unbreakable Boy.
Yes.
With Zachary Levi, who is one of those fuckheads who says that, vaccines cause autism. He's one of those people. Plus, he's just an asshole.
Yeah.
And so you have that, which is a horrible, horrible film. And once again, he plays the father of an autistic child, and based on a real person who basically started a blog that centers the dad and centers him, and instead of talking about the son. And that's the same thing in here. And what they do in this one that is so harmful, they give their son the wrong medication. And so then their son has like an outburst, like almost not violent, but like throws things around, like yells things. And so what do? They put him in a psychiatric facility, even though it was their fault. Like they basically frame it like it is their son's fault. And so they put their son away, basically, which is a harmful thing. And that was done and is still done to people. So that is another harmful portrayal right there. So it's like we get like a couple steps forward and there might be some good portrayals, but then you've got The Unbreakable Boy. You've got the show The Good Doctor that ran for quite a few seasons. So you have all of these that they still exist. So it's like there's such a long way to go until it can be like, oh, that was a thing of the past. Because you still get things like that. And music didn't come out that long ago. So it's the same thing. And the thing with music also is so many people with autism auditioned for that role.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like there weren't people auditioning for the role. And see, it shows specifically, and then also took to social media and attacked anyone criticizing it. And people that auditioned, she just said, well, you must be a horrible actor then. Because it's just like this. Yeah, it's like not able to take any kind of criticism. But much like any representation, when you don't have good representation, like Carla said, it can impact the way, and Sara, you were talking about it too, impact the way everybody views people who are neurodiverse or do have autism or do have anything, any, OCD, any ADHD. anything, they can view it through the lens of what they see in media, if they, as far as they know, which they probably have and they just don't know it. But if they're like, oh, I've never met anyone with autism, this person must be, like you said, Sarah, they must be very good at math or at science, or what is it, or, some instrument, or what is it that they are really, really good at? And while you may be thinking, well, why is that so bad to sit there and portray people as being like highly intelligent? It's bad because then it puts this expectation, and it also almost puts people almost in like this fishbowl where you're going to watch them and
Yeah.
see how amazing and wonderful they can be, because we've seen that before. And so it takes away that person having any kind of agency or being an individual, and lumps them with a certain group. And that can be very, very harmful. And it can be harmful for the person who is autistic, has ADHD. It can be harmful for that person because then they can watch a portrayal and see like, okay, well, first off, like a lot of times you will see those portrayals and it's like, they never get to have a quote unquote normal life. They're never going to fall in love. You're never going to have this. You're never going to have that. And so if you're watching that, you can think, oh, okay, so I guess my life is just going to be horrible. It's like the whole thing of, like the bury your gaze trope, and how dangerous it is for people who are looking to see themselves. And also, if they see a lot of pain and hurt, then they're like, okay, so I guess my life is just going to be filled with pain and hurt. And positive portrayals can make someone feel like less alone, and like, oh, maybe people will be more accepting of me, or I'm not such a odd person, or, I'm not someone that people should run away from, or something like that. But if you see a negative portrayal, it can lead to more stigma from the outside world, but also stigma against yourself and self-hatred,
Yeah.
And the fact that it's like steps forward and then steps back, it's like that movie Music to me is such this huge, huge like step back from any kind of progress, quote unquote, because that portrayal is so similar to Rain Man, and especially to What's Eating Gilbert Grape and Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in that. It's so similar to that it's almost like taking a step back. And once again, that movie is really primarily about the sister and not the sister who has autism. It is, Music is that sister's name, but it's about the other sister. That's who it's mainly about and centering. And that's the problem also with a lot of these movies and TV shows, is how it's like, oh, we're going to learn something from you and you are going to teach us a lesson. And we don't care about your health or your well-being. We just care about what you're going to teach us and how we're going to grow from being so open and letting you in our lives. It's like you're so grateful that we are letting you in our lives and you get to be around us. Isn't that amazing? It's that kind of thing. It's like, you should feel lucky that we are letting you in, And also, it's also harmful when you're not having people in the community writing, and this has been mentioned before, writing the scripts, directing, portraying the characters. It's also harmful in that because you are saying that people in that community don't have a right to tell their own stories. And when people in that community that you're trying to represent tell their own stories, that's going to be more authentic representation than what you're going to get. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about some of our favorite depictions of neurodiversity in media. So we'll be right back.
Every group has someone who insists on doing things the hard way. They might be paying for a subscription they forgot they had, or refusing to update their phone because it still works. It's easy to be that person, especially when it comes to something that feels so simple as your wireless plan. But if you're overpaying for wireless, switching to Mint Mobile couldn't be easier. In fact, switching is so easy, it makes staying with your existing provider the hard option. With Mint Mobile, you bring your own phone and number, activate with an eSIM in minutes, and start saving immediately. No long contracts and no hassle. It's the same coverage, same speed, just without the inflated price tag. It's the premium wireless you expect. Unlimited talk, text, and data, but at a fraction of what others charge. And for a limited time, you can get 50% off 3, 6, or 12-month plans of unlimited premium wireless. Plus, they offer a 7-day money-back guarantee, just in case you want to switch back. Mint Mobile is a game changer if you want to stop feeling like you're overpaying and not receiving a good service. As a customer who has made the switch, my wireless has gone from being a bill that I hate paying to someone that I boast about to all of my friends, ready to stop paying more than you have to. New Mint Mobile customers can make the switch today and for a limited time get unlimited premium wireless for just $15 per month. Switch now at mintmobile.com/fandom. That's mintmobile.com/fandom.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required, $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. Additional terms apply. See mintmobile.com.
Okay, so Carla, what are 3 of your favorite depictions of neurodiversity in media?
Okay, the first one that I'm going to mention, and I'm mentioning specifically because I think that when people think of ADHD, they automatically think little boys running around, knocking things over, being rowdy and whatever. But girls get kind of shoved into a corner. It's like, you can't have ADHD, you're a girl. But Cher Horowitz has ADHD and she's a girl. And now, what are you going to do about it? And so here's the reason that I think Cher has ADHD is that she has a lot of interest. And when she picks one and really hones in, she is like there and she's locked in and you can't pull her from it. Whether it's, helping Ty get Elton, or whether it's helping her dad with his case, or, helping make this event for people to donate items, including skis and bongs for the people of the Pima ecological disaster. When she decides that something is her cause, like, she is all in and she is fully focused on it. She's also a daydreamer, and she's somebody who lives a lot of her life internally, a very big inner monologue. Her inside of the head is never quiet. And as a girl, you're supposed to behave a certain way, so a lot of it gets masked, and a lot of it gets kind of like shoved under other stuff. And she's also seen as an airhead, but she's clearly not. She's a very thoughtful, loving, intelligent person, but she just expresses that in a different way than what people want students to express themselves. She is very intellectual, emotionally intelligent, but also can grasp other concepts, but she does it in a way that is not the mainstream. When she's talking about the Haitians and how we can, expand the tables to seat the Haitians like she did at her father's 50th birthday, she came up with a very intelligent argument. And, I love her, and I love that she is very much herself. She's also very wealthy, so that helps grease a lot of wheels as far as society. So when people are rich and white and beautiful, a lot of labels are not automatically applied to them that are applied to other people kind of by default. Like, you're weird, so we're going to take you less seriously. In her case, she's a girl, so they're going to take her less seriously. Either way, Cher Horowitz, ADHD. I think Alexis Rose also has ADHD. I think that's somebody who is so, to me, like, very similar to Cher. They have a similar intensity and very singular focus. When they've decided that something is going to happen, they're going to make it happen. And that leads Alexis to a career that she creates herself. And the thing is, like, Alexis is somebody who I believe existed without a lot of accommodations. But again, she had money. So in a lot of ways, her life was made easier in ways that other neurodivergent people would not have had as easy a life, because she was able to travel. She wasn't a school person. Not every person can be a school person. And in my life, I've met so many people with ADHD who have been shoehorned into the you must go to college, prescriptive paradigm that we believe in the Western world, where, if you don't go to college, you can't succeed, you can't be anything. But some people are just not college people, and that should be okay. Alexis didn't even finish high school. She went out and jet-setted and did all kinds of things. And for a long time, her her like big focus was following whatever guy around, but she always knew who she was. And I think that's one thing that's very interesting, that with neurodiverse people often know exactly who they are, but they keep trying to fit into a more neurotypical shoe, if that makes sense. So by trying to make yourself more neurotypical, you don't mentally become neurotypical. You're just like a person who doesn't feel like they fit anywhere. Like you're just pretending really well. Like even the most successful high masking people know that they're just pretending really well. And that's really hard. But I think that Alexis succeeds because Alexis has a very strong grasp on who she is. And that's partly because of, again, the money being what the world perceives as beautiful. And she has her brother's unwavering support. Maybe not her parents, but she always had her brother on her side, which gave her a lot of leeway to just flourish in her own non-standard way. I talked a bit about Data before from Star Trek. And here's the thing with autism representation and the whole robot concept and the concept of like, okay, very often autistic people are represented by cartoons or as aliens or as robots or some combination thereof. And I think that that's because of this stereotype that's out there that autistic people are very monotone and they just never fit into society in the way that they should, but they come close. So it's like they're almost human. And that's a problem. It's a big problem. I love Data, but that's not the kind of representation that I think is helpful. I love Murderbot from the Murderbot series by Martha Wells, the books that were later turned into a TV show. I think, honestly, that's fantastic autistic representation as far as the inner workings from my, perspective. But again, not perfect because it's still a bot. As a side note, so many people were asking Martha Wells, hey, is Murderbot supposed to be autistic? By the way, are you autistic? That Martha Wells went and got herself tested and is in fact on the spectrum. That's just an interesting side note. But I think a better representative is Ovid from Community. And Ovid, I think, is fantastic because he's not played. I don't think he's written or played as robotic. He's monotone, but not without any inflection. He's just he just thinks of something and lets it out and that's it, which I find to be very relatable. And because he's a guy, he's given a lot more leeway in what he's allowed to say, whereas women have to be a lot more circumspect and are forced to learn to mask in a much higher way than men are. But either way, Ovid, I believe to be great representation. And I think on the whole, when it comes to representation of any neurodiversity, it's best when it's accidental. And that's only because the characters are written as human first. And then they have quote unquote quirks or just a different way of expressing themselves that is not informed by this desire to represent a specific type of person. For many years, people would ask the Russo brothers, who wrote a lot for Community, and Dan Harmon, who's trash but also created Community. So, it is what it is Ovid autistic? And for the longest time, they were like, we didn't really write him that way, but so many people have come to see themselves in him that we can, it wasn't on purpose, but we appreciate that. And then Dan Harmon went and got to it and was like, oh, by the way, apparently I'm on the spectrum. Go figure. But again, that accidental representation tends to be so much more true than when they try to make it happen, but lead with the neurodivergence, because then they just paint you a flat picture and don't give you a human behind it. But Ovid, he doesn't have like the stereotypical like jerky movements and physical awkwardness. He's somebody that everybody was like, we gotta help Ovid meet this girl that he, who would be right for him and that we think he would love. And at the end of the episode, he's like, I don't want you guys helping me matchmake. I'm not seeking somebody out because people usually come to me. It's like, don't treat me like a child. And that's the problem with a lot of the bad representation, is the infantilization of neurodiverse people. Neurodiverse people are not children unless they're actual children, and in which case you shouldn't be talking to them anyway. But you got to treat people with dignity. And a lot of people who write neurodiverse characters don't lead with dignity. They don't lead with humanity. They lead with stereotypes. So that's why I appreciate these characters, because they're written as just humans that we would love to, that we love to watch on screen and we would love to interact with. Or at least I would. I think they're really cool.
Yeah. I never thought of Cher or Alexis as ADHD, but that makes perfect sense. Actually, it does. It makes perfect sense. But my favorite one right now is Dr. Melissa King on The Pit, who is played by Taylor Dearden, who is Bryan Cranston's daughter. And what I like about her character is, number one, Taylor is neurodivergent. She has ADHD, and she has been very vocal about it. So I think she brings a lot of like her personal experiences into the character. It's a character. It's not explicitly said that she's neurodivergent, but all the signs are there. She's a doctor, obviously. It's never really addressed as I guess a deficit, but that's not what I want to say. And it's actually not even really addressed at all in interactions, like the other characters interacting with her. But she's definitely, high, especially with women. Women are very high masking when it comes to neurodivergency, because we tend to fly under the radar a little bit easier. I mean, she's got a lot of little quirks here and there. She has a sister who is on the spectrum, and that character is on the spectrum. I don't know if the actress that plays her is neurodiverse or not. I should look that up. But the interactions, seeing her interact with her sister is wonderful. I think what it comes down to is I see a lot of myself in her, and the way she interacts with people and the way she reacts to certain situations. So for me personally, I feel that that's why it is such a great representation, because I do see a lot of that. I mean, some other ones, there are a lot of characters out there. And like Carla was saying, it's the representation does seem to be better when it happens accidentally. So another one that and it's been my comfort show for years, is Dr. Tempest Brennan on Bones. I mean, there's some problematic things there, just in the show itself and how it's formulated. But again, that's another character that I don't know if she was initially written to be on the spectrum, but it's definitely there, just in not understanding social cues. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there. But I think with both characters, it's one of those things where a lot of times the portrayal of someone who is neurodivergent, specifically autistic, a lot of times it's, there's a lot of gloom and doom surrounding it. Like, you're never going to live a fulfilled life. You're never going to have a job. You're never going to get married. You're never going to have kids. And for these two specific characters, it's showing that that's not the case. That there are a lot of people out there who, sorry, RFK Jr., pay taxes and live fulfilling lives. That it's not this, doom and gloom that a lot of those portrayals are. And I mean, the last one, and I don't know a lot about it, but it was really, really nice to see. And I don't know a lot about it because my kids are grown, is the introduction of Julia on Sesame Street, which, like I said, I haven't seen how her character interacts and things, but just from what I've read within the community is that it's been a very positive response. And I think it's wonderful to have a character like that on a children's show like Sesame Street, which is showing children that, everyone's brain is a little bit different, and that's okay. And it's showing kids how to be not how to be a friend to someone like that, but just giving them another frame of reference. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that are sort of neurodivergent coded, like Castiel is definitely one. And I mean, there are more positive ones out there. And I think that's what we need more of now moving forward.
Yeah. So I'm going to focus a lot on like bipolar disorder and then one that's schizophrenia, just mainly because I feel like I can speak better to that personally than but I did want to say I was going to mention Abed as well. So I just want to second that. So that's why I put it alternate, because I was like, I'm sure someone's going to mention him, but I do agree. I think that's such a what's so great about that is it's there's so much agency for him, and he gets to live a full life, and he gets to make mistakes as well. I think that's another thing that doesn't happen all the time in these portrayals. So I second that, Carla. And I really love that show despite certain people. And
I know, right? Every rewatch is a reckoning.
Yeah. And despite them trying to make me like Jeff Winger, because every time I'm like, you're a jerk. And then he's like, I'm going to take my shirt off, or I'm going to wear this one blue shirt. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
I feel it. I get it.
Yeah. And the first one I'm going to start out with is, yes, the person who directed this and wrote this is a total incomplete and total piece of shit, but it doesn't take away from the fact that for me, this is one of the most personal and profound ones for me, and that is the character Pat, played by Bradley Cooper from Silver Linings Playbook, which for me is one of the most personal and profoundly impactful portrayals of mental illness and neurodiversity and bipolar disorder, because of the fact that it's a rom-com basically, and you don't get to see a lot of rom-coms where the main characters, and especially the main character, is neurodiverse or has bipolar. You never see that. So that was a nice thing to see. I also think it's very accurate. Some of the scenes in there are painfully accurate, and some of them I laughed at because of how accurate they are. There's a whole discussion where they're going to a dinner with Pat and a character of Tiff, who is played by Jennifer Lawrence, and they're sitting there and they're discussing the different medication they've been on. And I love that scene so damn much because it's just
that was fantastic.
So great to have people normalizing talking about the different medication they've been on. And the fact that it is not presented in this way where it's like, this is horrible of them. It's kind of like the other people that seem uncomfortable. It's kind of, to me, it came off as, why are you so uncomfortable with hearing the reality of what, and also having these two characters who have been on all these different medications be able to sit there and talk about it in a jokingly way, and talk about the different ones that can just knock you out and feel like you're not going to be around for, you're not going to come to for a long time. So I really, really appreciated that. And I think Bradley Cooper does a fantastic job. And I do want to say, as far as I know, all the ones I'm going to mention, the actors don't actually have bipolar or schizophrenia. So that is a knock on these. And I acknowledge that as well. And then next, I'm going to talk about Anne Hathaway was in this movie called Modern Love, and it's these different vignettes. And she plays Lexi, who has bipolar. And what I appreciated about this, because this one is not really like the other ones are like romantic love stories. This isn't a romantic love story. It's about her actually finding a friend and being open and honest about her illness. But what I also appreciated about this is that so often when you see portrayals of bipolar, they focus so much on the manic, the hyper. They focus on that, and they don't focus on the depression, the severe, severe depression that comes with it. And this focuses a lot on the depression. That's what you're seeing Anne Hathaway's character Lexi go through for most of her run. So that could be triggering for a lot of people out there, just to let you know. But it was so accurately done and depicted, that depression and how it comes out of nowhere a lot of times. And a lot of times you have no explanation for it. And a lot of times it's followed by that quote unquote manic episode. And I know for me, for bipolar 2 is signified by the depression, by the severe depressions that happen and everything. So seeing that side portrayed so well was really beautiful. And then watching her go out to eat with someone and being open and honest about her illness and reaching out to someone to have them be a friend and have that person react positively and not treat her differently from that moment forward was also a nice thing to see. And then lastly, I'm going to mention and the reason I don't have schizophrenia, but I've known quite a few people who've had it. There's this movie, and this one's really hard to watch, just to let everybody know out there, but there's this movie called Take Shelter by Jeff Nichols. It's an incredible film starring Michael Shannon, and Michael Shannon plays this character who, in his mid-30s, and his mom had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, which if you don't know about paranoid schizophrenia, just look that up. It's very painful for people who have it, because you have, on top of the schizophrenia, you also have paranoia. And he starts being obsessed with the fact that there's going to be a huge impending storm coming. And so he starts building like a storm shelter and all this, but then he's at the same time trying to acknowledge that maybe he has the same illness that his mother had. And so coming to a reckoning with that. And the film, to me, never, ever, ever disrespects his character or never treats his character like a spectacle. There are people that are afraid, especially his wife, played by Jessica Chastain. But there's never this moment of like, ooh, you're a quote unquote crazy person, or we gotta, lock you away immediately and take you out of society. But it does talk about the very real dangers that sometimes can happen when you are in the midst of your illness. So I think it's a good portrayal. I think it's very hard to find positive portrayals of schizophrenia. I think that's one of the hardest ones to find positive portrayals of, to be honest. I mean, there are ones that everybody talks about A Beautiful Mind, but the real life person was a horrible person. So it's hard to really be on board with that one. So those are mine, but I appreciate all of the mentions here. And I didn't think of that either with Cher or Alexis, but I liked those mentions too there, Carla. I didn't think about that either. So,
and, I just want to mention that all of this, none of this is definitive unless it's been made definitive. And I'm only saying that because, if somebody has a disagreement with anything that we brought up, just know that we are not the authorities on what isn't ADHD, bipolar, autism, what should be representation. These are just our thoughts, and they're all valid thoughts, because it's one thing to find something that you can relate to in a character. What is not valid is diagnosing real people.
Yes. Very, very, very true. Yes.
Yep.
So we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about why it is so important for there to be positive representation. And as much as my panel feels comfortable, why it is personally important to them, if they feel comfortable sharing that. So we'll be right back.
When you buy LG, you get so much more than just an appliance. You get more done, more cost savings, more peace of mind, and more control. Because LG appliances are designed to do more. Like washers and dryers with AI tech to take out the guesswork. Refrigerators that fit in tight spaces and keep food fresher longer. Or ranges with precise induction cooking and easy cleanup built in. All with the style you want and reliability you can count on. So you can get more from your home every day. LG appliances. So much more. Make life easier with LG. See the latest models and savings now at LG.com.
Okay, so we've already mentioned a little bit why it is so important that there is positive representation, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that. So, Carla, why is it so important for there to be positive representation? And then, if you feel comfortable, why is it personally important to you?
Well, I'm going to tell you a story. And I think it's like, you'll get it when you hear it, okay? So, when I was in college, I had this friend who, we're just all sitting around chatting. And I had known them for a while, but we're all, we're sitting around chatting. I've known this person for a long while. We're meeting this new group of people, and their social graces are much better than mine and always have been. And that's just how it is. But it really highlights to me how much about myself I didn't know up until this moment. So we're sitting there chatting, and for some reason, the whole idea of like just sex comes up, and this person's like, yeah, and I'm a virgin and everything. And to me, it's just like, okay, well, but you're not. So I said, no, you're not. And they're like, yes, I am. I'm like, no, you're not. And to me, it wasn't me being a jerk or trying to call them out. I was just correcting an error. I'm like, oh, maybe you forgot? That's a weird thing to forget, but people forget things all the time. What do I know? So I was just like, no, this is inaccurate. We must fix it. And that's the way that I was with a lot of things. It's like, there's an inaccuracy. Please let me help you by correcting this inaccuracy. So it wasn't a malicious thing. It was just simply, I heard something. It was incorrect. I will fix it. We laugh about it now. But back then, oh my God, they were mortified. They're like, oh my God, can you shut up? And I was like, why? What did I do wrong? You're saying something incorrect. Let me fix this for you. But that's the kind of thing where it would be played for comedy. It would be played as a punchline. And the person who said that would be made into the punchline and would be made into a horrible person who does things just to be a jerk. When it's really somebody who has poor grasp of what is and isn't considered polite and what isn't considered necessary. And the idea of something being inaccurate but not being that important and also not my business did not occur to me. And this is what happens when you don't have sufficient diagnosis and life skills, people helping you understand how neurotypical people think versus how it is in your head. The importance of representation is not just seeing ourselves in media, it's also helping us understand each other. Because, with neuro differences, neurodiversity, a lot of it comes down to we're speaking essentially different languages. And there's no translator, in part because nobody has bothered to do the work to learn the languages and to help them come together. It's much easier to learn Italian and to go to Italy and speak Italian with somebody who speaks Italian as somebody who has not grown up speaking Italian than it is for neurotypical people to interact with a neurodiverse person and understand what they're saying and why they're saying it. And it shouldn't all be on the neurodiverse people to behave more neurotypically. And that's one problem I have with the idea of ABA therapy, is that it's a lot of training autistic people to be normal, quote unquote. And that's the idea, the problem that I have with a lot of therapy aimed at neurodiverse people, is that there is not a lot of grace given to the neurodiverse person, and it's all about helping the neurodiverse person be more normal. And I think that if we had more representation, like real, solid, good, accurate, and diverse representation of all the different kinds of, all of the different levels of autism, all of the different types of ADHD, all of the ways in which OCD manifests, all of the different facets of BPD, of cognitive disabilities, of schizophrenia, we would have a much better understanding of each other. And it wouldn't all be on the person who is already struggling with a lot of internal things to have another thing to struggle with, which is trying to communicate with people who are not interested in meeting them halfway.
Yeah. Sara?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I've found that it's been an interesting journey, I guess, finally receiving a diagnosis and understanding a lot more about myself and why I do some of the things I do and why, like, I think the way I think and that type of thing. And I think that's why it's so important to have a much broader representation within media, because there was a saying that I was in like a support group for parents of children on the spectrum. And, there was a saying that we always had: if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, because it affects everyone differently. ADHD affects everyone differently. Bipolar, OCD, I mean, the way it affects you is completely different. So for me personally, and I know we touched on this before, I mean, there's so many misconceptions out there. And I speak about autism just because it does affect me personally. There are so many misconceptions out there that, that they don't have empathy. People with autism don't have emotions. They don't feel, they're very robotic, and it's just, they can't show love, and it's just, or they don't have a sense of humor. It's just not true. Nate was just one of the most, well, now he's 23, but he was one of the most loving, funny, happy kids. And so for these stereotypes that are out there are just so harmful to the neurodivergent community. You end up having to explain a lot more than you should if people would just take the time to learn. I mean, I even go through it with with my husband, and I'm like, I can't shut my brain off. It's just back and forth, but like one thought after another. And he's like, I don't understand what that's like. I'm like, what do you mean your brain is quiet? What is that like, to not be like constantly bombarded by thoughts or whatever? Ugh, it's so annoying. It's why you can fall asleep in 2 minutes. But, there are more and more people being diagnosed as neurodivergent, and especially women, because it went unnoticed for so long, because how we manifest is completely different than men. And because we are, and I know I touched on this, because we are so good at masking, because of society telling us, this is you're a girl, you have to behave this way, and that's not ladylike, and it just, because of what society puts on us, we got very good at hiding it. And now, as a lot of us are approaching menopause, that's a whole fun journey. We're losing that ability. So there are so many women that are being diagnosed late because it was just never recognized when we were kids. The signs were there, but because of what was seen and portrayed, I mean, not just, yes, in media, but even doctors and scientists and researchers, there wasn't enough. I'm going on a rant here. There wasn't enough studies done on women to identify it. And that is changing. And there are more studies being done on women, and a lot more are being diagnosed. I mean, I know for me personally, when I got the diagnosis, it was like, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense now. This explains so many things, because I did have those like awkward, not understanding social situation moments where I'm thinking, well, I don't understand why what I said was wrong, that type of thing, or just being a really staunch rule follower, that type of thing. And so when it comes to portrayals, I think there needs to be more of that instead of these extreme portrayals, because that's not the majority. I don't think it's the majority of us, but so again, hopefully we'll start seeing more positive representation.
Just to add just a little bit, but yeah, I think as we say a lot on here, representation matters, but good representation is what really matters, because it can not only help you see yourself, but it can help others see you and acknowledge you in ways that, maybe they wouldn't have before. Or like if you were open with someone and told someone, look, I am on the spectrum, look, I have ADHD, look, that, if you are to be open with someone, if you know there might be a higher possibility that they won't turn from you or judge you or like treat you differently from that moment forward, I think positive representation can help that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it's so important. It's so affirming to be able to really see yourself represented in media and in a positive light. It is so affirming to see that. And, media often reflects the way society is, and society for so long, and people even who were mental health professionals or people that were doctors or people were misdiagnosing people constantly all the time, or were giving them the wrong medication or all of that stuff. I didn't get my diagnosis till I was 30 years old, and I had lots of misdiagnosis, including schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
So, having those misdiagnoses, I think some of that does come from media, honestly. And so if you're not having positive portrayals, that can lead to that and more harm. And especially right now when there is such an attack on science and attack on health and everything, it is even more important now than before to have positive representation, I think, for people to really, really, really be able to see themselves in a positive light. And that's why it's so harmful to still have movies and shows come out that aren't a positive reflection. And remember also just a little bit of a PSA. Autism Speaks is a horrible, horrible organization. And I just want to say that because some of these, like that stupid Zachary Levi movie and stuff that was promoted a lot by Autism Speaks. And so please note that. Do not listen to them. They want to cure autism, and it's very harmful to be approaching neurodiversity in the lens of wanting to quote unquote cure it, or believing, that vaccines cause autism or all these other things, because what that does is basically it is stigmatizing even further people who are neurodiverse. So I just wanted to make sure to put that in there.
Can I just say the whole vaccines cause autism thing pisses me off like you would not fucking believe. It is so insulting to me that you won't vaccinate your child against preventable illnesses that could lead to them dying because you think having a child on the spectrum is worse than having a dead child.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, I'm sorry that anytime I hear that, I just, that fills me with rage.
And then other kids could die because of your ignorance as well.
Exactly.
I mean, look at all the measles outbreaks we're having now.
There's one, they just had one in Broomfield, I saw.
Yeah, and that's
there was I think the high school.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's been like tons of them out there now because of that, because of all the misinformation out there. And it's very dangerous for lots of people. Okay, well, it is time to play 6 Degrees of Finn Whitrock. And so, did both of you play 6 Degrees of Mr. Finn Whitrock?
I'm sorry I didn't.
That's fine. Carla, what did you use? Because you can use any media we discussed here.
Well, I'm actually going to bring up one that I didn't, but it's too late to go back. So there we go. I already did the thing, so.
Too late.
Oh, well. I'm going to go with Charlie from Supernatural, ADHD queen, played by Felicia Day. And Felicia Day was in Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox, which is a mouthful, with Joel McHale, whom you did mention, Erin. So there you go. Close enough.
Yeah.
Who was in a futile and stupid gesture with Finn Whitrock.
Awesome. Yes. Stupid way they would dress Jeff Winger. It's so flippin' annoying.
We can have a whole episode about men that play characters that we hate and that are hot anyway, and why we're angry about it, and why they should or should not be shirtless more often.
That's actually a really good idea for a fun little episode.
Very
He's
specific.
awful but hot. Let's discuss.
Yes.
Hot.
There's quite a list of that.
Terrible hot guys.
Terrible hot guys.
You could even have it be like terribly, but like slash at the Y and add an E.
Terrible. I get it. Terrible. So terribly hot. Terrible hot. Oh, yeah.
Look for that in 2028.
I'd probably just do it as a Patreon bonus episode. See, become a Patreon supporter today for content like that.
There you go.
So I used Freddie Highmore, who, of course, is in that show, The Good Doctor. He's also in a much better show, Bates Motel, everybody. Anytime I can shout out that show that deserved more love.
Yes.
From all of you out there. Love that show so much. Freddie Highmore was also in the Spiderwick Chronicles with Sarah Bolger, who was in My All-American with Finn Whitrock. I say, because sorry, Finn, I hate that movie so much. It's just a typical football movie, but it bugs me because, okay, sorry, this is a tangent. But so his character, and this is in I think it's the 60s when it first starts out, that Finn Whitrock plays, because it's based on a real life football player, and I can't remember what happened to him. I think he was I can't remember. I'm sorry, everybody. But anyway, it starts out in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, which, I'm from Colorado. Sara lives in Colorado now. Maybe I shouldn't tell everybody where we live, but anyway, so this is one of those things where I get so sick of some of the ways that Colorado is portrayed. So Finn Whitrock, for some reason, they told him to be have a Texas accent when he's in Colorado.
Okay. Makes sense.
I mean, yes, he eventually leaves
God.
and goes to, I believe he goes to Texas. I've only watched this movie once. It was 4 or 5 years ago. And so I think he does, but it was in the very beginning in Wheat Ridge, it was kind of the way that was portrayed. It was also portrayed like Wheat Ridge was yes, Wheat Ridge is near the foothills, but this is the way Colorado's portrayed a lot. There are the mountains right there, smack right there. Anyway, sorry.
I mean, I could also have this discussion about Miami and how Miami is not like West Palm Beach. They are distinct and different and very far apart from each other. So please stop it. Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode about horrible portrayals
That's
of our
another
states.
one.
Well, don't get me started on New Jersey. Yeah. We're not just the turnpike.
I will say, though, this is going to sound like the weirdest one to bring up, but the Black Phone, which takes place in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, is actually really good. It looks like Wheat Ridge, so there you go.
I believe it, and Wheat Ridge is famously known for its serial killers who lure people into vans.
Yes.
Using black balloons. So
It's very
the accuracy is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. Allegedly, everybody out there. Allegedly. I should have been allegedly. Because that'd be really
It's a real problem here in Colorado.
We're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode, and everyone can say where they can be found. And Carla, the host of Okay Real Quick, where can your podcast be found? I don't know why I said that so slow. Sorry.
Because it's a mystery, Erin. Everybody likes a good mystery.
Yeah.
So I will tell you as if this was a mystery. If you're looking for okay real quick, come closer. I don't want to be overheard. You can find okay real quick wherever you found this podcast. I know that's so mysterious. You can also find our social media in places, not all of them, but look for at okay real quick pod, and you may or may not find it. You may also or not find at Carla Temis, but you can always find me and the podcast at carlatemis.com. That's CarlaTemis.com. And I want to shout out the YouTube channel I'm Autistic Now What, because a lot of what I've learned about representation has come from Meg at that YouTube channel.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla, for mentioning that. And Sara.
You cannot find me in Wheat Ridge.
Don't help them draw the map,
Since
Sara.
everything else seems to be taking place there. But anyway, you can find me on Facebook at Sara Vaquero Barnick. That's BARNAIK. On Instagram at NateCamMom. That's NateCammom. And on TikTok, Sara A. Barnick. Again, SaraABarnaik. And that's about it. And I'm sorry I'm not creative with names.
One of Fergie's favorite parks, she doesn't get to go there very often, is actually located in Wheat Ridge, Colorado.
She's not going there anymore.
I know. We can't go there
We got
now.
vans on the list.
I'm not going to tell you where that park is for people listening. So if you're trying to stalk Fergie, it's not going to happen.
Just look for her online where she belongs.
Yes.
And where you belong, and nowhere and never the twain shall meet.
Yes, exactly. So you can follow Fergie on TikTok at Schroeder and Fergs. That's SCHROEDERANDFERGS. It's long, but it's worth it. To find all our past episodes, links to our social media, including our Discord server, head on over to our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. And while you're there, consider becoming a Patreon supporter today. For as little as $3 a month, you get ad-free content. You get episodes a day early. You occasionally get bonus content, like when we do that, like, terrible hot guys episode.
Terribly.
Yeah. When we do that episode, the only place you're going to be able to hear it is there, at least for now. Plus, occasionally you win prizes like, oh my God, fuck, I got to start really deciding what day it's going to be. Our marathon streaming event is coming up in May. It is, I promise. We're still doing it. We're going to be doing stuff like we're going to be doing the Fandom Choice Awards during that. We're going to do a very special celebration months late of Christian Bale's birthday. So we've got those two planned. There'll be other stuff, fun, exciting guests. And it's 12 hours of me streaming. And I also give away prizes to some of my Patreon supporters. So click the link in the show notes or go to the Support Us tab on our website. It's a fandomthingpod.com. And next week, Erin A. joins me for your must-listen Oscars episode. We will predict with stunning accuracy all of the winners for the Oscars. It's amazing, our accuracy. Although what's exciting this year is in both of the supporting categories, and even also an actor now too, is no one's quite sure because it's been divided by so many different actors. So that is very exciting when you're not positive. Best Actress is pretty much a lock, Jessie Buckley. That's pretty much just locked up. But the other awards aren't. Like even that Best Actor, Timothy, whatever, Timmy, whatever you want to be, Timmy, Mr. Timmy Chalamet. It was locked up, but now it's not as locked up as it was. So
now it's just not.
Plus, some horrible allegations came out about that director. So that on top of it.
Great.
Yeah. Whoa. A bunch of stuff just fell down on me.
Oh my God.
Not on me, but near me. Oh my God. That was weird. All this stuff just, is falling down.
Your desk got shocked.
Oh, that was weird.
Either that or it's the spirit of Jeffrey Winger.
So, whoa, that was really, it's just like, anyway, sorry, everybody.
I think maybe it's like it's trying to tell you that Halloween is coming sooner than you think, so you need to start planning for that.
Yes.
Michael. Was that you, Michael?
For once, I'm innocent, Erin.
Okay, so did I say, oh yes, Oscars next week. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about Netflix. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about fandom and pop culture in education. And then the extra episode we're going to be doing is the hosts of Mind the Tags podcast, which is all about fanfic, are going to be joining me to talk about, in particular, women writing / fanfic. So we're going to be, especially right now with Heated Rivalry, which I know is our most popular episode at this moment in time. It dethroned the Christmas cult just for the last 30 days, not overall. The Christmas cult episode is still number 1 overall.
They are legion. They're going to come back.
Yes.
I'll be curious to see what happens. So anyway. So until next time, remember, it's a fandom thing. Black Lives Matter, stop Asian hate, and free Palestine.